There once was a little kid who liked to play with his toys by his lonesome. He lived with his family on a small peaceful house outside of town, surrounded by forestry. The home's backyard was his personal stage, where he played with his figurines of various shapes and sizes, making plays which were acted out for his enjoyment. Although he was alone, he was content in living out his youth playing with the plastic friends his parents had gifted him. They were a small mannequin, a stuffed teddy bear, a porcelain dress-up doll, and a toy robot. But one day, the family's pet dog stole one of the toys during his playtime. Into the woods he excitedly ran away with the toy robot, prompting the kid to chase after him to reclaim his friend. Annoyed by the dog's playful attitude, the kid caught up, grabbing the toy from the thief's mouth. He began to pull. Oh, to be young and carefree, a kid and his dog, playing tug-of-war in the back garden of their house, with no one to interrupt them. Seems like a wonderful memory, doesn't it? The dog, excited to finally receive the attention it craved from the young master of the house, refused to lose this game they found themselves playing. The toy robot was almost free from the dog's mouth when... Relieved to have gotten his friend back, the kid wiped off the pool of drool from the toy robot with the bottom of his shirt. He walked back home, leaving the animal twitching helplessly on the grass, with barely enough room left in its swollen neck to let out a pitiful dry howl. The kid, arriving back from the trees, positioned the toy robot back where it was, on the makeshift stage, and continued playing. Later that afternoon, the parents found the body of the dog. They buried it where it stood. This story I tell you is a true story that I pray you never forget. There once was a boy who laid awake at night during a harsh downpour. Beneath the covers of his bed, he closed his eyes and tried to ignore the storm just outside his room. Enveloped in darkness, a sensation of creeping discomfort kept him from falling asleep. The roars of the storm were nothing compared to the restlessness that the shadows cast from the window gave him. He felt his eyes watching for him from afar. The boy opened his eyes and looked towards the window, but nothing was there. He tried to go back to sleep. He opened his eyes again, and out of the corner of his eye he spotted it. The hollow white eyes of a living shadow. It appeared just as quickly as it went away. His uneasiness pushed to the side by growing curiosity, the boy got up from his bed and approached the window. From out the glass he could see it, the silhouette of an animal, darker than the night around it, and void of color even when light struck its frame, running off into the trees with a familiar object in its mouth. His favorite toy stolen again, being carried towards the forest. The boy couldn't help but follow along the shadow's path. The night air was freezing, brazen winds carrying countless droplets that hit the skin like marbles, their impact deafening any other sound other than the imposing thunder. Call it premonition, but he knew where the shadow had gone to, the place at the edge of the forest where he had last left the family dog. He was sure he would find it. Standing in front of the grave once more, the eyes of the shadow had gone away. In its stead, the twice-stolen toy now lay on top of the muddy mount. But this time it was moving, its tiny plastic arms flailing violently from side to side, its head rotating in place. The movement was sudden but clear, unprompted by any outside influence. A spark of life was trapped inside this tiny vessel. Fascinated by such discovery, he picked up the toy from the ground and held it tightly with both its hands to prevent it from escaping its grasp. Smiling from ear to ear, the boy headed back home. Here is the story you need to know. This is a true story that I tell you. I hope you're taking notes for the quiz at the end. There once was a young man who had grown hungry for knowledge. Growing into adolescence, he had isolated himself from his family, focusing instead on his passion for the unknown, the spiritual, the place of mystery he had come to know years ago. In a box under his bed, he hid his secret away from all others, his living plastic friend, still thrashing and writhing inside. Every night he observed his movements intently. The young man spent entire days away from home, reading and studying about spirits and vessels. His interest turned into obsession, and his need to understand grew. Alas, it was all for naught, as no book had the key to the answers he'd been seeking. All he found were vague rumors and legends, with no instructions or explanations. To continue down the rabbit hole, he knew what he had done. Had to be done. Sorry. Since he was a kid, the young man never saw his dad as anything more than an obstacle. He was a moody, aggressive old alcoholic who only talked to his son when he needed something to shout at. Having driven everyone that loved him away, the drunkard was worth less than nothing in the eyes of the boy. Thus, he was the perfect candidate. One day when coming home, seeing the old man sprawled out onto the kitchen table with a bottle on hand, he decided to show dear old daddy a new way of life. Holding a small felt doll in his right hand, the teen made his way to the house's garage. After a few hours, the deed was done, and the plan in action. The boy watched his oblivious father drive away in his car, unaware of the tampering that he had done to the vehicle. Sitting on his bed, the young man took his dear pet out of the box and began to press harshly on its square plastic head. As it trembled in pain, he waited on the outcome of its small experiment. Oh, the humanity! After the car accident, he recovered the doll that had been planted below the seat and returned to his home. Placing it on his desk, he watched it closely for that same spark that remained inside his robotic friend. But much to his frustration, no movement came from the doll. Nothing! The vessel he had prepared for his father was empty, devoid of a single remnant of life. Furious by his failure, he ripped the felt doll apart and threw it aside. What a waste. From then on, he was free of the shackles of his drunken caretaker, but without the trophy he had planned to take from his monstrous act of sabotage. Unflinching in his resolve, and with no guilt in his empty heart, he contemplated what to do next. I was kidding when I said there was to be a quiz, by the way. Not that it matters, or that you deserve it. Children, here is the next story. I hope you enjoy. There was once a sick, twisted monster who stalked his victims from the shadows. Its heart far gone from its body, this putrid parasitic individual lived for the hunt, to capture and corrupt the weak, all for the sake of satisfying its disgusting pleasures. Tonight was no different. Amidst the rain, this vile vampire of society spotted a young girl left outside the entrance to a family restaurant. She looked in from a window as other kids inside had fun and celebrated without her. The monster approached the girl from behind, its body trembling in anticipation to savor the perfect opportunity that had been laid out in front of it. Maybe, if some humanity was still lingering inside, if some shred of dignity had remained in its hollow heart, it would have felt pity for her. Maybe it could have sympathized with her situation. It stood still, inches away from her, its hands reaching out for her back, the sounds of its breaking masked by the downpour surrounding him. The child felt a chill down her spine. She saw its eyes looking at her in the reflection of the glass. She slowly turned around to face the figure towering over her. Holy crap. That was deep and dark. Oh my god, do I really have to narrate the rest of this story? Oh god. You. You rotten, ignorant, heartless creature. You left that innocent little girl in that alley to die a cold, lonesome death. Your hands were tinted red with her blood, colorless in your empty eyes, and you felt nothing but satisfaction from taking her life. And for what? You don't remember? We all know that's not true. These meetings have been merely a formality. If it were up to me, I would have left you alone to be torn apart by your captors, limb by limb. Just like you tore the life away from her that night, tossing her into the trash after capturing the fragments of her essence. But now it's time for you to feel her pain, to feel the pain that all your victims suffered. Rot in hell, William Afton, alongside the shadows of your past. Once a man called William Afton. In your life, you chose to waste time chasing shadows, turning a blind eye at the suffering of others. Leeching off the remnant of life that was robbed from your victims, you fought your fate to death until your last rotten breath. But after decades of running away from retribution, you perished, trapped by your own machines. Your body turned to ash, crushed inside one large metallic coffin. Your soul, now naked and vulnerable, was dragged down into the darkest depths of the earth and taken by the forces that would decide your fate. And their judgment was clear. This place was born out of their judgment. This colorless replica, a reflection of where your life should have first ended, populated by the shadows of your past. This is your punishment, an endless night, trapped within the abandoned confines of the dream you turned into a nightmare. Inside the place of joy you poisoned with your selfish desires. Congratulations, it's your own personal hell. You truly deserve it. My job here is finished. I'm through trying to find humanity in you. Your chances of redemption are long gone, and you have no one to blame but yourself. Over the course of these 5 nights, you have failed to show regret for your actions, nor care anything other than your escape from this prison. You did this to yourself, and as such, I leave you to your fate. This is the end, William. Good riddance.